In this video, I will teach you how to create a simple interactive calendar in Google Sheets. You can use it to plan your monthly social media posts or as a monthly planner to schedule tasks and events. In this example, we will show you an easy and effective way to visualize and plan your content across all your social media platforms. This interactive calendar will help you organize your different content ideas. You can use it on its own or duplicate it in another spreadsheet. The way it works is very simple. You will select a date and a type of content from the drop-down menu and add a caption. As you can see, the caption will show up in the calendar automatically. If you're interested in making something like this, stick around and I will show you step by step how to create this exact template. If you need something more specific, check out the link below and you will find our content calendar template with many customization options and many more cool features. Now, let's get started. I suggest you follow my directions and do every step in the same cells I use. This way it will be easier to correct a mistake by checking out the formulas on the screen. And remember, if you're using Google Sheets in another language, the formulas formatting might differ from mine, so be sure to check the directions Google Sheets provides you when selecting a formula. Now, starting on a blank page, we select cells B7 and E7, down to cell E37. The interval you will see in the right corner will say B7, E37. Let's create a border around that. This will be our content table. Now, select cell B5 and put this symbol in parentheses, the tag symbol, since this is the column where our numbers will be. In the cell C5, write date, and in D5, write type of content. E5 will be our caption. Let's format things so they look nicer. Click on the little gray square at the top left corner of the sheet. You will select the entire spreadsheet. Now, I choose center, then center again, and then the wrap option. If you want, you can also change the font of the spreadsheet. I like to use Montserrat, but you can leave it as it is or change it to your favorite font. Going back to the cell B7, we will use the sequence formula. You can also write the numbers manually, but I like this formula when creating tables with big numbers because it's easy to use. In cell B7, write equals and type in sequence. As you can see, a guideline will appear telling you how to write the formula. Here is where the formatting may differ depending on the country. In this case, the formula requests the number of rows, 31 in this example, comma, and then columns 1, comma, the start, 1, comma, and then the increment, 1 again. And now we close the parentheses and press enter. Here I created a short table of contents with only 31 rows for each day of the month. But you can adapt the formulas and make a much bigger table that you can use for many months. Now, we will turn these blank cells into a date you can select when you double-click it. Select a range from C7 to C37 and click on Data, Data Validation, and then Is Valid Date. Select Reject Input and click on Done. Try double-clicking on the cells. If you've done everything correctly, a little calendar will appear allowing you to select a date. Before moving on, let's resize the cells more neatly, make the B column smaller and the E column bigger. Now it's time to make the interactive calendar. Select the range from cells J2 up to K3 and click Merge. This cell will be the starting day for our content calendar. So we do the same thing as before. We click on Data, Data Validation, and then Is Valid Date. Reject the input and click on Done. Double-click on the cell and select a date. To make things easier as we create our calendar, click the first day of the month. Before moving on, let's change the format of this date. To do so, click on the cell, go to Format, then Number, and then Custom Date and Time. Here, you can customize the date as much as you like. You can select any of the options that appear or make a personal date by selecting this drop-down. For this date, I like to see the day, month, and year. You can decide whether you want the day as a number or a word. The same goes for the month. Once we are satisfied with the formatting, we click Apply. Now that we have our start date, we can create the rest of the calendar. Go to cell I6 and write equals J2. It means that every time you change the date, the rest of the calendar will change. On cell J6, write equals I6 plus 1. Click on the little blue dot at the bottom right corner of the cell J6 and drag the formula to the cell O6. And here we have our first 7 days of the calendar. I also like to have some labels to differentiate the days of the week. To do so, click on cell I5 and write equals I6. Click on the blue dot and drag this formula to cell O5. Right now, this looks a bit messy, but let's fix it quickly. As we did before, select the range from I5 to O5 and go to Format, Number, Custom Date and Time. I want to display only the day of the week fully. The same goes for the range from I6 to O6. We click on Format and personalize the date. In this case, I like to see the abbreviated month and the day displayed as a number. Our calendar is starting to take shape now. Right now, we need only 1 week. Once we complete the formulas, it will be easy to copy and paste and create all the weeks we need in this calendar. If we remove the starting date in cell J2, the calendar will become messy, and I want to avoid that. This is an optional step if you plan on using the template for yourself, but I think this formula is quite useful. I want the calendar to be blank when I don't have a date. To do so, we go to the cell I6 and modify the formula. Put J2 in parentheses, and after the equal sign, write if, parentheses, is blank, parentheses, J2, close parentheses, comma, another comma. The original J2 stays right there, and we close the parentheses. We set to the formula what to do when J2 is empty. The 2 commas mean nothing. If J2 is empty, do nothing. If not, the cell will display what J2 is displaying. If we drag the formula right now, it will not adapt correctly. We need to do one more thing. Click on I6 and click on the first J2. Click on F4 on your keyboard, and a $sign should appear before J and 2. If not, do it manually. This step fixes the cell. When we drag it now, it will always refer to J2. But we cannot drag it yet. We need to do another important step. Copy the formula and paste it on J6. Now click on the second J2 and delete it. In between the empty parentheses, write I6 plus 1. Then press Enter. Now you can drag the formula to cell O6. It's time to create some borders around our calendar, making it pretty and neat. Now we can create the interactive part of our calendar. Count 5 cells below cell I6. It will create space for 5 pieces of content each day. Select from cell I7 to O11 and create an outer border. Before moving to the tricky formula, let's input some dates and captions in our content table. Select the dates that will appear in our calendar to check that the formula works properly. Try to pick one date more than once so we can check the formulas as we're writing. You don't have to write anything fancy, just a word or a letter. Once you've done that, we are ready for the formula. This one is a bit long and looks complicated, but we will write it slowly, explaining every step. Let's start in cell I7. Write equals, filter, open parentheses and select the range from E7 to E37, the caption column of our table. Comma, C7 to C37, the date column, and then equals I6. Close parentheses. Basically, we told our formula that when a date in this section corresponds to the date in I6, the caption must appear. Since the range will remain the same for the entire calendar, we must fix both ranges by clicking F4 on our keyboard or manually, adding the $sign before our letter and number. Now, if we don't have a corresponding date in our table, an error message will appear. This error is easy to fix. Go back to the formula and after the equal sign, write if error with no spacing between the words. Open parentheses and go to the end of the filter formula. Add a comma and a close parenthesis. Click Enter. This command means that when an error appears, do nothing and leave the cell empty. To complete the formula, we need an extra step. Right now, if we add more than 5 pieces of content to the same day, the formula will not adapt correctly. See? To avoid the problem, we must tell the formula to only work in these 5 selected cells. To do so, we will use the array constrain formula. Go back to the equal sign once again. Click and write array underscore constrain. Now open parentheses. Go to the end of the formula and write comma 5, the number of rows the formula must work in, comma, and 1, the number of columns. Close parentheses and click Enter. The formula is ready and now it will work properly. That's why I said it's easier to adapt. If your table has more than 31 rows, select a longer range. Or if you plan more than 5 pieces of content a day, select the correct number of cells beneath your date and adapt the array constraint formula by changing the number 5 to the number of cells you selected. You can now drag this formula to the cell 07 and it will adapt correctly. If you check on it, you will see the cell where the calendar date changes, but the range stays fixed. The first week of the interactive calendar is now ready. Now is a good time to personalize your template. We made the template green, but feel free to choose your favorite colors or leave it black and white. To avoid messing up formulas or deleting them, I suggest to color the cells you don't need to touch. I use the lightest gray from the palette. Now you can also resize the columns. Select the days and make them larger. I also selected the row 5 to 37 and right-clicked on the range. Here I click on Resize and choose the number 30. Once you're satisfied with the colors and the dimensions, we can move on to the rest of the calendar. Select the range from I6 to O11, click Ctrl+C, and then go to cell I12 and click on Ctrl+V, or Command-C and Command-V. Everything is messed up now, but it's easy to fix. Click on cell I12 and click on the formula where it says J8. Delete it and write I6 plus 7. Click Enter, and the entire week is now correct. When we select this range from I12 to O17, copy it and paste it on cell I18. The formula will adapt. That happens because we added 7 days to the week before. Pretty neat, right? Let's copy and paste this until the end of the month. I created 5 weeks, but you can keep going and use this calendar for many months. Now that the calendar is ready, all we need to do is highlight today in a different shade of green and add some embellishments. To do so, we select the entire range of our calendar from cell I6 to O35, click on Format and Conditional Formatting, and select Date is Today. In the formatting style, you can select a different shade of green and a different colored font. I also made it bold and italic to make it stand out more. Click Done, and today will be highlighted. To finish the calendar, I added labels at the beginning of each week. Select the range from G6 to G11 and merge them. Write week 1 and change the orientation to vertical. Let's color this as well and put a border around it. Now we copy and paste this on cell G12. Change the name to week 2. As you can see, we copied the format. If we grab the little blue dot and drag it down to cell G35, it will automatically adapt, creating your 5 labels effortlessly. It's time to move on to the dropdown. That will make it easier for us to select the type of content from the table. For this, I will make a small table beside the calendar to show you how you can create a dropdown from a range. Click on cell Q5 and write the symbol hashtag. On cell R5, write type of content, create a border around it, and select 10 cells below, from Q6 to R15. Create the border. In cell Q6, you can either create a sequence or write the numbers manually. Again, you can make this table as big as you like. I will now fill this up with some types of content I often use, like a reel, carousel, or YouTube video. Let's also resize this and make it neat. I use the same colors as the rest of the spreadsheet. To create the drop-down menu, select the range from D7 to D37. Go to Insert, then click Drop-down. Below Criteria, select Drop-down from a range. A little window will pop up. You can move it aside or even go to a different page to choose your criteria. But right now, we just need to select the range from R6 to R15. Click OK. Here you can also personalize the drop-down colors. Now go to the Advanced option and select Reject the input. Then choose the style of your drop-down. I don't like to use the chip because you can delete it accidentally, so I always use the arrow. Click Done. The template is almost done. We have our content table, our interactive calendar, and our drop-down menu. All we need is the title and a few finishing touches. You can use this space from cell B2 to E3 to put your handle or choose a fitting title. I added Select Start Date beside the date and added a border. To make everything neat, I select the columns A, F, H, and P and reduce them. To select columns that are not close to each other, click on Ctrl or Command if you're using a Mac, and click on the selected columns. Now, a cool little trick to delete all the rows you don't need is to click on row 39 and then click Shift, Ctrl, and then down arrow a couple of times. Right-click and select Delete Rows. You can also do the same with the columns from T to Z. Right-click and delete them all. And now we will get rid of the guidelines and create our own. Go to View, then Show Grid Lines, and then I will add some internal border to our calendar. You can select a lighter color for the inner borders and a white color between the colored cells. But in the end, it's your template, and you can decorate it as much or as little as you want. The important thing is to learn the formulas and check that everything works properly. Now you have a finished interactive calendar to use for your content. This way, you know how easy it is to create a calendar that you don't need to copy every month. You just need to change the date on top, and the calendar will adapt accordingly. So, did you enjoy the tutorial? I hope you find it helpful. Don't hesitate to let us know if something is unclear. I hope this tutorial inspires you to create interactive templates you can use in many ways. If you need something more complete, check our content calendar in the link below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!